Hello there. Welcome to Blitz Transmissions. I'm Tommy, and in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my top 10 most wanted Black Series figures from Star Wars The Bad Batch. The Bad Batch is far and away one of my favorite shows that Star Wars has put out in the Disney Plus era, and a lot of that comes from my love for the Clone Wars, as I was a huge Clone Wars kid growing up. The Clone Wars was probably my biggest childhood Star Wars experience, and The Bad Batch gave me continuations of the stories of a lot of characters that I wondered what happened to after the events of Revenge of the Sith. This list was extremely difficult to boil down to just 10 or 11 characters, so I did cheat in a couple ways you'll find out towards the end of the video here, but I did want to just say that there are tons of characters that I want from The Bad Batch, and in putting this list together, I kind of came to the realization that there are a lot more figures from this show that I think should be made, and I didn't realize just how many holes there were in the Black Series when it comes to this show until putting this list together. Keep in mind, in no way am I trying to be objective with this list. This is a solely subjective list on the top 10 figures that I want most from this show. So starting off, we're going to kick things off with an honorable mention before we get into the actual top 10. And the honorable mention for this list is going to be Cid. Cid is a pretty important character through the first 2 seasons of the show. She kind of backs off and has no presence at all when it comes to the third and final season. However, in those first couple seasons, Cid is a key player in the story of the Bad Batch. I think she'd be really cool. It'd be neat to get another Trandoshan in the line other than just Bosk, and I think she would make for a great shelf presence. I think a lot of people would pick her up for things like Cantina displays as well, where you want a lot of those unique alien looks. Coming in at number 10, kicking off the actual list, we have Dr. Emery Carr. Emery was a cool character that was introduced towards the tail end of the second season of the show, and she became a pretty major player in the third season all the way to the very end. I really was intrigued by her character from the start, and to find out that she was in fact a clone was a really cool twist. I think we all had a hunch that that's what it was, but it was still really cool to find out for sure in the third season. I thought she did a great job in the show of being a really nice character, and I really think a figure of this character would do well. Again, she is an Imperial cloner technically, so this also would fit into Imperial displays and things like that. It's very multifaceted, as a lot of the figures on this list will be. Coming in at number 9, we have Senator Chuchi. Senator Chuchi was a character that was first introduced in the Clone Wars, and then we saw her play a pretty key role in fighting for the human rights of the clone troopers, particularly in the second season. I absolutely loved this arc here that she had in kind of helping the clone troopers out. She had a lot of episodes in the Clone Wars. I think she had a lot more screen time than most senators did in the show, and it was really cool to see her get the spotlight as a kind of an aspiring younger politician that wants to do good. I think Senator Chuchi is an important enough character to deserve a figure, and again, this would be the first Pantoran that we get in the Black Series, and I think she'd fit really well in any kind of prequel display or even a Clone Wars display too. Taking a look at number 8, another very important character to all 3 seasons of the show is Nala Se. This would of course be the first Kaminoan to make its way into the Black Series if this were to get made, and I'd be really happy about it. I think a lot of people, this is another one, people would just pick up just to have a Kaminoan in the collection. Nala Se is a character that remains important to the story from beginning to end, and I really like how she comes to a demise at the end of the show. It was very self-sacrificing, as the Kaminoans are known for being quite selfish. I thought it was a really cool juxtaposition to have the end of her character be a selfless act. Coming in at number 7 is going to be a very familiar face for prequel and Clone Wars fans. It is Clone Commander Cody. Cody has a really cool grayscaled look in this show compared to his stark yellowy orange color that we do see in Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars. Commander Cody's arc with Crosshair really helped to plant the seed of doubt in Crosshair with the Empire in the second season. I loved how it was almost like a Clone Wars episode where, you know, they go in, they complete the mission, but then at the end, you see that things are different now. It's not like the Republic where you can talk things out and maybe get the bad guys to turn good at the end. It's the Empire. Everyone dies and everyone has consequences, and eventually Commander Cody goes AWOL. I thought for sure we'd get to see the end of his story in this show. I think they're saving it for an upcoming series. However, I think I'd really like an action figure of this look for Commander Cody, and I know a lot of my fellow clone lovers out there would as well. Keeping with the theme of clone troopers for the next few picks here, number 6 is going to be Clone Commander Mayday. Speaking of characters that were integral to Crosshair's turn in the second season, Mayday was the straw that broke the camel's back. I love that not only is Mayday a clone, but he has a very, very unique design with all of the bandages and wrappings around his broken, tattered armor. Mayday was an extremely important character and really moved me the first time I watched his episode The Outpost in the second season. I actually just recently rewatched that episode because I love it so much. I go back to it from time to time. I think this character is extremely deserving of an action figure and would be a great addition to the Bad Batch display. And now we are breaking into the top 5. Now, my number 5, we are again sticking with clone troopers here. Big surprise, this show is extremely clone-centric. It is going to be Clone Commando or Clone Captain Gregor, depending on who you ask. Gregor has a couple different looks in this show. He kind of bears a plain white commando armor suit in the first season of the show. However, by the third season of the show, Gregor does have a yellow gauntlet. He kind of repaints one of his gauntlets, you assume, to look like how his original armor looked from the Clone Wars, and I think it's a really cool touch. I think he's a character I'd really like to see because he shows up quite frequently in the show, and being one of Rex's right-hand men, and later on showing up in Rebels, I feel like this character would be very deserving of a Black Series figure from the Bad Batch, and it would be a lot simpler for Hasbro to do than the extremely, extremely intricate paint design from the Clone Wars. Now, coming in at number 4, these top 4 were neck and neck, I hope you know. All 4 of these I pretty much want equally as much as each other. Number 4 is going to be CX2, the sleeper cell clone trooper most heavily shown in season 3. This guy was a great secondary antagonist, someone that was really hunting down the Batch, and Crosshair had a real struggle with him throughout the show as well. This guy was awesome. I loved him. He was compelling as a villain, and it was kind of like Crosshair's antithesis, or like what Crosshair could have been had he stuck with the Empire. CX2 is a very unique design, and I think it's super, super cool. It's like a Spec Ops clone trooper. I love the way that the helmet removes just the front half of it, and this character was very menacing in the show, and as a major villain of season 3, considering we have no figures in the Black Series from season 3 of the Bad Batch, I think this one would definitely be warranted. Now, to kick off number 3 on the list, it's going to be the main antagonist of seasons 2 and 3. We are looking at Dr. Hemlock. Dr. Hemlock is an extremely simple design, but he is a character that I need on my Bad Batch shelf. As a major villain for basically the second leg of the show, the second half of it, this guy is very much needed on a Bad Batch display. He has so much screen time. He's a very, very well-written character. The voice actor did a fantastic job on him as well. And again, while simple, I feel like he's definitely needed for a Bad Batch display. This is another one that I think a lot of people who buy Imperial figures would pick up just because he's such a cool character and a great officer to add to the ranks. Coming in at number 2, speaking of villains and, big holes in this show's display, we need some troop builders here. We need the TK Trooper. The TK Troopers are super cool. It's like the Stormtrooper Phase 1 before we see the original trilogy Stormtroopers later on. We saw so many of these guys from the very first season of the show all the way through to the end. They were coming in left and right, just dozens and dozens of them sometimes, and I'm really honestly shocked that Hasbro hasn't made this figure yet. There are a couple repaints they could even do for this figure, like Tarkin's Shock Trooper variant, among others, like the slightly different poncho and goggle looks that we saw in one of the latter seasons. I think this would be a perfect way to get some reuse out of this figure, and I think a lot of people would pick this one up. To be honest, I think a lot of people would be in on at least 2. And finally, looking at my number 1 for the Bad Batch Most Wanted list, it is none other than Asajj Ventress. This appearance of Ventress also made my top 10 wanted Black Series figures of all the media of Star Wars for that video video I did earlier this year, Ventress is such a cool character. She comes with a yellow lightsaber, representing her rebirth after her untimely demise in the Dark Disciple novel. She has a super neat design in this show, and I think that we might be seeing more of her in future projects, so I would definitely keep an eye out, and I think Hasbro should too. They should jump on the ball now, get this figure made, so that they could have a leg up when this character perhaps shows up in future media. What can you say? She's an awesome Force user. She's not good, but she's not bad. She's experienced the dark side, she's experienced the light side, and I think that she is a super cool character. Very complex, very deep, and I think that a lot of fans would appreciate this one. Now, I cheat as I always do with these, and I always come up with at least a couple multi-packs, because Hasbro's been doing a lot of multi-packs recently for the Black Series, so I came up with a few that I think would really be cool. The first one here hails from Season 3 of the show, and again, I can't believe we have no figures from the 3rd season of this show. It'd be easy as opposed to doing all of these characters individually, like they did for their Season 1 and Season 2 looks. At the end of Season 3, the Bad Batch don this blacked out, I call it the stealth armor, when they go to infiltrate Mount Tantus. You get Hunter, Crosshair, Wrecker, and Echo. I think it'd be easy to do these guys in a 4-pack for like 90 bucks. I think people would pick this up, and it's super cool. It's blacked out armor. What more can you do? You literally have all of the existing parts to make these figures. It's literally just repaints, and I know I, along with so many other people, would pick these up. In the same vein of Elite Clone Forces, I think a multi-pack of Dr. Hemlock's experimental clones at the end of Season 3 would be a super cool multi-pack as well. These guys were extremely menacing, and they did a number on the Bad Batch throughout that finale, including capturing Crosshair and having his hand cut off. I loved seeing these guys in this finale. I was really sad, actually, that they died so quickly. However, I hope that we see something similar in future media with these modified, augmented clone troopers, and I'm hopeful that we get some action figures of these guys. They had cool melee weapons, cool designs. It was supposed to basically be like the evil antithesis of the Bad Batch, and I loved the metaphor there. And finally, another multi-pack. You could do this as like a 3-pack, 4-pack, even like a 5-pack if you wanted to. Let's get Captain Rex's clone troopers from Season 3. These clone troopers are more than just repaints. I think you could include the Season 3 look for Captain Hauser with these guys. It would be super cool to get all of them, and that's the reason why I didn't put Hauser on my main top 10, was because I wanted to save him for this multi-pack. I kind of didn't want to put him in twice, and it would be super cool to get these guys. You know, they have these extra pouches on the chests, they have these extra holsters on their thigh armor, extra pouches everywhere, you know, unique custom weapons, custom paint jobs with very striking, vibrant colors. I think these guys would look great along the back line of your Bad Batch display. And that's it, guys. That's going to be my Bad Batch Most Wanted Black Series figures, my top 10 along with some extras at the tail end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you thought this was a good list, if you would pick up some of these figures, let me know in the comments below. If you thought it was a terrible list and you think you have some better picks, also be sure to let me know in those comments. And with that said, guys, if you are not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you are an ARC Trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this video early. If you'd like access to all that early content, as well as monthly giveaways and other awesome benefits, be sure to check out the link in the description below. If you're into action figures and that's more your speed, I do release action figure reviews early for my Rancor Battalion channel membership. That's linked in the description below, along with all my social media. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking off all units. Fire at will. 1-2, pick a target. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. Gotta hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. Where's our reinforcements?